Welcome everybody, I'm Santiago Kneeland and this is The Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the harmony with the universe. What is to be in harmony with the universe? This is a powerful conversation about trust, surrender, and learning to flow with life instead of fighting it. Our guest is Eamonn Sean Kneeland, author, spiritual coach, and meditation guide with decades of experience teaching radical trust. He shares a simple and transformative message. Everything always happens in your favor. And what if this is true? Together we'll explore aligning with divine flow, releasing resistance, and trusting life's unseen intelligence. Take a breath and let's begin. So welcome, Eamonn, which I'm proud to say my uncle Eamonn, who is accompanying us in this podcast. So it's a real pleasure having you here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Santiago. I've been looking forward to it from a long while back. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm excited. So let us roll.
Perfect. So this is an interesting topic, and this is part of what you've been, I don't want to say conclusions, but the summary of your life, of how you've, your life experiences and, the meaning that you found in different situations. So in this first segment, which is called The Call of the Soul, we're going to talk about that every spiritual path begins with a call, sometimes through wonder, sometimes through loss. In this segment, we step into Eamonn's origin story, from sailing in the Pacific as a teenager to losing his father, and how that turning point became the doorway to awakening, purpose, and spiritual devotion. This is the journey of a soul answering destiny. So tell us a little bit about your story, how you grew up and your relationship, I think, and I knew your dad. You had a very close relationship, very particular relationship. So tell us a little bit of you growing up.
Well, my younger years were quite something. I can say that I had a wonderful upbringing with its challenges. We lived in Mexico City for a long while. I was there till I was 15. My dad, my mom got separated, they got divorced. And my dad, he was a seaman. He had the salt, the ocean in his blood from the start. From even before I was born, he had sailboats. He shipped out of the merchant ships when he was only 14 years old. And I had the opportunity when I turned 15 to move with him and live on his final boat. That was his third boat, who he had built so that he could round the world. His main challenge was to round Cape Horn, and he wanted to do 50-50. He wanted to go one way and then back the other, and then through the fjords, and that was his passion. Sailing was his passion, and I had the opportunity to experience his last 6 years of his life with him. They changed my life. I was always into snorkeling and learned how to scuba dive, and I love fishing. I still do. And it was a wonderful experience. It was something that automatically took me out of the box. My dad had a sailboat in Acapulco, and we lived in Mexico City. Back then, it was about 6 to 8 hour drive. Now it's 3 hours or something. But we would go every weekend, and we, my brothers, my younger brothers and I, not younger than me, but the youngest of 10,
Yes.
would always
Big family.
yeah, big family, just like yours.
Yes. Yes.
And we would always complain because we wanted to, have the lifestyle that every other kid had, and we didn't. I missed. I didn't have prom. I missed uh, weekend parties because we always went to Acapulco and we spend the weekend there. We'd go sailing, we'd go snorkeling. I'd stay fishing till the wee hours of the night. But that was my upbringing. So automatically, right out of the get-go, I was pulled out of the norm. I was not
Yeah.
your regular kid, and neither were my brothers or sisters. But I was the last of 10, so I think I got into the tail end of that comet called my dad, and
Okay.
learned from it. I think it prepared me.
Okay. And this is interesting because, I mean, you're telling us about this younger years that you spent a long time in Acapulco, and your mom and your dad were still together, and you kind of had, family life and had that, that lifestyle. But suddenly, your life kind of changes. Your dad leaves, and he takes you and your brother to the Pacific. Basically, takes you out of school. You go with him in his sailboat and live in the ocean for I don't know how many years. So that is all. I mean, if before was being out of the norm, this is completely. I remember, you it was your dad with you guys sailing all over the Pacific. So tell us a little bit of that experience.
Well, it was wonderful. We started off from California. San Diego was the home port. We did a couple rounds to the Hawaiian Islands and back. He kept on trying to put together the perfect crew. He hired guys that went around the Whitbread, around the world, or a couple other, sailing, big sailing experience under their belts. But with all the experience comes ego, and he was not quite happy with how the cruise would turn out, and we would end up or coming back from Hawaii back to the mainland, or we would reach as far as Polynesia and then come back to the mainland. But then one day he he got it, and he said, "Well, I'm not really going to look for guys that have all this experience and whatever. I'm gonna just bring in these guys that have are eager to experience something
Okay.
different. They're not really sailors; they've never sailed, but they're eager to experience, and they're grateful for the opportunity. And so he brought his two brothers-in-law. They were young, back in that crew. The oldest was 26, the youngest was me, and I was back then I was 19, 18. Um,
Okay.
and then we brought two friends of ours from our neighborhood in Mexico City, and they were city boys, and they were
Yeah.
not sailors, but they ended up learning the trade, and he loved that because they could learn his way. They didn't have their way and wanted to impose it into the system that he had already created. He was able to teach them from
Okay.
zero, from the start, and that allowed a crew that was prepared and ready to go the world around like he wanted. And so it took a while, but we headed down, I should say, to the South Pacific on our last voyage. I say last voyage because he got ill on our way down. We were sailing from San Diego to Easter Island, and then we were going to go, cut into Chile and do the Horn and all that. But he
Okay.
got off right now. This is like happening, but in retrospection, then you start. Okay, it makes sense. It makes sense based on what I've been learning, what I've been exploring, how I've been
Yeah.
expanding the consciousness. The doctors, because he was a guy, he was religious. You gotta underline that he was Catholic, and he was a praying Catholic, and he was faithful and devout. He was forgiven for all his sins, and so he was allowed to come back to the church, even if he was a divorced man twice. So he really was very grateful for that break they gave him, and so it impacted in his faith, and so he was a man of faith.
Okay.
Um, but then prior to heading down south, he got a cough, and he went to the doctors. He, explained he was gonna, take a long trip, and we were not gonna come
And
back
this
in
was just a parenthesis. This was the trip he'd been planning for all his life, going
for all his,
around the Horn, and he
yeah,
never that was that. Okay, got it.
this was his big chance. This is
Okay,
his big opportunity, and probably his last opportunity the way he saw it. I mean, he sailed. He was a treasure hunter. He did a lot of sailing prior to me even being born, but
yeah, yeah,
this was it. This was the la cúspide de la pirámide.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so um the doctor said, "Oh, just take, extra vitamin C. It's just a common cough. You can set sail, no problem." So we set sail, and 2 weeks into this South Pacific trip, his cough got so heavy that he couldn't keep a meal in. He he
Okay,
he, he was just not going anywhere with it. So we decided to turn back into Polynesia for the third time, and there he decided to go find out what was happening. First doctor said, "Oh, common cold, just drink lots of orange juice and lots of lime, and you'll be okay. And he wasn't convinced about that. So he flew over to the main island of the Marquesas Islands. This is in the Marquesas Islands in
Yeah.
French Polynesia. And they decided that he had to go check himself either in Tahiti or in Honolulu,
Yeah.
because this was not a common cough. He had pneumonia. They
Okay.
discovered that he had a lung filled with water. So
Okay.
we paused. He and his wife, his third wife, back then my stepmom, flew to Honolulu. He loved Hawaii. He had Hawaii in his under his
Yeah.
skin. That I'm going to the U.S. because he was a patriot, and he was better off. He thought he was better off if he went to Hawaii. So
Okay.
he was there, and he got checked by the doctors, the pros, and finally came back with an answer. And the answer said was that he had cancer. He had pancreatic cancer, and it had already spread to his lungs and his brain. So immediately, the 10 of us, my brother and I, were in the Polynesian Islands. We, left the crew there to take care of the boat, and we flew to Hawaii. My other brothers and sisters from elsewhere flew to Hawaii and gathered with him. Sat with a doctor. The doctor really was quite honest. He said he's got 6 months of to live, or 5% over 100 chance to survive chemo. And so
So
my
it's
dad was very.
really, really bad
It was
news.
quite dim.
Yeah. 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 To say the least.
Yes. And so my dad, he was positive about it. And he says, well, I'm going to go for the chemo. You guys go get back the boat, go get the boat back over here to Hawaii. We'll, weather it out. And when I'm ready, we'll keep sailing. And, and I think in his soul, he was a wise man. And in his soul, he knew that he was going to go sailing, but this was a different type of sailing.
Okay.
Because my brother and I, my brother as totally went from being the first mate to being the captain, and so
Okay.
and he was only 21 years old. So we went back to the islands, and it happened to be in this. You're better in French than I am, but 14 juillet, which is the
14th
festivity.
of yeah, the take of the Bastille. The
Exactly. And they in Polynesia they really go out and celebrate. And so 6 weeks of party hardy every day. And so my brother and I couldn't really contain the information that we were given when we flew
Mhm.
back, and we joined the party. And that's another lesson,
that was the way that you kind of released your tension, right?
deal with it or avoided it, one or the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. Okay.
So we, lost some time, and finally, 2 weeks later, we had to convene. I mean, we were almost having mutiny because the crew was partying hard as well, and there were three families. It was his two brothers-in-law, our two friends from Mexico City who were cousins, and my brother and I. So we had to really pull it together and really, rise to the occasion, and finally, we're able to leave Polynesia or French Polynesia and sail back to Honolulu.
Okay.
By that time, we had wasted 2 weeks. All right. So
Okay.
I remember when we were at sea 4 days into this trip, and so I remember we were heading back to Hawaii, and 4 days into the trip, we got on the ham radio a call from my stepmom saying your dad has passed on. So he passed
Really?
on. I was 20. My brother was 21, and he passed on while we were at sea. And I remember that day that we got the news. You try to grab onto whatever you can.
Yeah.
I saw the longest. I don't know if it was a shooting star, probably, but it covered the entire horizon. We're talking about deep sea. We're talking about no islands, no mainland, no nothing, just ocean, water, darkness, clouds, stars, just ourselves and the ocean. And that night, I remember seeing this huge, long tailed shooting star, like a comet. And in my understanding back then, I thought that was my dad saying goodbye. It was quite interesting. It was hard. It was a hard experience. And of course, we got to Hawaii, 6 months into partying. Our crew started dismantling, and everybody started going back home. And meanwhile, we're trying to find answers. And in my experience, and this is shared in my book, my recent book, Everything is Always Happening in Your Favor, which that's in Spanish. In English is That Deep Little Book. I explain my fast lane experience. I had heard at some point in the radio when I was in San Diego varnishing or sanding the boat, how there was this person who had died and his son died like 6 months later. And so I was
Okay.
open. I was open to that. I was open to catching up to my dad because at that time, my dad was everything for me. He was my
Yeah.
boss. He was my captain. He was my friend. He was my provider. Okay, so basically, I wanted to follow after him. He was everything for me, and I felt like he, there was nothing for me to linger for. So I started. I took the fast lane uh, for 2 years until I had
Okay.
a rock bottom experience. Now, before that, we had a beautiful aloha why to my dad. He had already written down everything he wanted happen with his physical body if he would pass on at sea, or he would. I mean, if he pass away at sea, or if he would pass away in land, to the point that he wanted exactly this type music play during his funeral. So we had a beautiful celebration in the Big Island of Hawaii. Your grandfather flew in to say goodbye to him.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of controversy behind that, but we won't get into details. His partner, my mom's brother, who was one of his sailors for a long time before they got divorced, and after too, a lot of people that really cared for him
Yeah.
joined, and it was a beautiful ritual. Us, the crew, we all did. We had handiwork made as like seamen. We could do things with rope work, and he was addicted to coffee. He no longer drank. I was born, and 20 years after I was born, he hadn't had a drop of alcohol, but he had a sugar addiction. He loved ice cream and coffee. He
Okay.
replaced one with the other. And so I remember the gift I gifted him with in his departure was I had this really beautiful glass bottle. I fill it with Kona coffee, macadamia nut, which is his favorite. I knitted this net around it, like you see those floats, the fishing
Mm-hmm.
floats, and then between the net and the glass, I put a picture of his boat, and then I put a picture of my brother and I, and that was my gift to him when we scattered his ashes into the ocean and throughout our lace. I threw this beautiful gift, and
Okay.
everybody in the crew did the same. Some gifted him with the Hawaiian water, which was his favorite, which is a anyway, bubbly water, and so
Okay.
forth.
Yeah.
But his departure triggered my inner search. Uh,
Okay.
I was I was very religious. I would pray when I would go to bed. I would pray when I would get in an airplane. I would pray when I landed. I would pray right before I was going to eat. And I listened to the Bible on an audio tape. Back then there was tapes nightly. I was really devout. But I remember at sea, I just grabbed my Bible and ripped it in half and chucked it into the ocean. I said, you're not around. I don't understand why you took my dad. And I got into this rebellious
Okay.
path. Never got into the deep stuff, but yeah, I became a pothead and uh, loved beer and just like a sailor, And I was really angry against God or whatever back then meant that. And
Okay.
finally, 2 years of this, of just not caring and just living a life of plenty, I hit rock bottom. And when I hit rock bottom, your cousin, uh, extended his hand. I came and I told him I was experiencing this and I was out of my head and I couldn't come back and I was losing my mind and I he guided me into this new dimension where I went from religion to spirituality. Uh,
Okay.
and that's when I discovered that the master, uh, Jesus, didn't really live on a cross on my room. He was ever present, and it was up to me to allow him. And then I discovered that it was just not him; it was the Christ, and I either the Christ or the Antichrist. There was nothing external. I had the decision to allow this consciousness to be born within me because I died. I definitely died in that experience. I had a
Hmm.
what you would call a near death experience. I was out of my body. I was in this Grateful Dead concert. Some of you guys that will listen to this probably can relate in the sports arena, and I did excessive loads of psilocybin, and it's in my book. Um, and I could see myself from above. I mean, I left my body and I couldn't come back. And it was awful. And I discovered that this place, this arena where everybody was there convening, we were all
Hmm.
looking for, and this place was just, there was no light to be found there. But not just the partiers, not just the deadheads, the security guards, the vendors, everybody was there as a pool of lost souls. That was
Okay.
my trip. That was my experience. But I really literally left my body and I couldn't come back. And I couldn't come back. And so this cousin of yours introduced me to, I knew classical music, but then I started to listen to it. I got acquainted with Krishna. I got acquainted with the Virgin of Guadalupe. Uh, I really got acquainted with them, and he introduced me to this book called The I Am Discourses. And
Okay.
when I opened the book, it was like this quivering energy just embraced me and spilled out of the book and expanded my horizons. And then the next day I said, well, this is too much for me. And then your cousin, my nephew, he said, whenever you come this high, don't come back down because that's when you lose your path. And I took it to heart. And so I opened myself to this new understanding and this new world that I was discovering. And little by little, I started learning about the masters, the ascended masters, and I started channeling myself toward that because that is what made sense to me. And
Okay.
and and that's how I started my path, my spiritual path. That's when I transcended dogma and opened myself to spiritual teachings. And now it's been what, 32 years from that experience. So
Okay.
now I can tell you that any path, any organization, whether it's spiritual or not, it's still a crib. Any book is still a crib. And we eventually grow out of the crib. We grow out of anything that is limited by putting the name God on something. You are already limiting that expression, that being, that consciousness. And it's been a path of self discovery, of quite really realigning myself with who I am and with beyond the universe, because the universe is something physical, material. And we talk about the universe and may the universe bless you and let's align with the universe. But really, we're aligning with something that's greater and bigger and wider than the universe.
Yeah. Beyond
And
beyond
within,
what we consider the universe, or what we know about the universe.
exactly,
Well,
exactly.
this is really interesting, and like, I mean, your story and what you're telling me is, I mean, you went through this process, which I think a lot of people can relate, of loss, and you got to a point where, as you were saying, that you wanted to go with your father. You wanted to um, die even. So it's interesting how you went from that into this new awakening or new realization about yourself. I think this is part of what you're always, I mean, what you bring and what you're teaching in your book. It's always to, it's surrendering is not a weakness. It's really a strength when you really um, surrender, especially to the masters, to Christ, like as you were saying. So, in this segment, we're going to explore what if surrender isn't weakness but power. We explore radical trust, the idea that every challenge, delay, and disruption is part of a divine plan. Of the divine plan, we'll talk about releasing control, reframing obstacles, and trusting that life is guiding us. Even when it doesn't make sense, if everything happens in your favor, this is where we'll find out how. So tell us, I mean, from your understanding and going through this process, how does this, especially when you surrender and you embrace this nature, how does that transform you, and where how did you find this can benefit people?
Well, the thing is that it takes a long, long, long time to realize that you're quite limited by your own human limited mind. And they one of the apostles, puts it quite simple. Uh, Let the mind that was in Jesus be in you.
Hmm.
I'm not religious and I'm not a Bible preacher, but I do believe that some of that makes sense. And the logic of the human mind, it will always keep us in a safe comfort zone. It can be quite wide, quite large. Uh, you can't even notice the limits of that safety net or that comfort zone. But it takes surrender. It takes letting go of fear, letting go of attachment, letting go of uh, self uh, conception, letting go of everything. Just really opening yourself to a higher understanding, a deeper understanding of what you are, and surrender. Surrender meaning, well, not struggling and knowing it or understanding it, just surrendering and observing, and with the observation comes a deeper understanding. But we have to be patient. Uh, we have to strive. We have to try our not try. We have to just come back and remain connected, and in that connection we have access to all the information, and you can find connection through your heart. You can find connection through a path that makes sense to you. But you gotta keep connected. And I find that in my experience, even when I found the teachings of the ascended masters, I outsourced my energy. I outsourced my own faith. I outsourced uh, my power and my capabilities and my capacity of being, because I was in this process, and I went from a cradle to a crib, and then from the crib to a one single bed, and then from the single bed to a double, and then to a queen, and then to a king, and then to the California king. Whatever. It's just uh, how we're I mean, if we are creating the image and likeness of something that has no really physical limit, why not discover what that is within us and align ourselves with it and expand with it? And it goes beyond our intellect or our logic or any uh, belief system or any religion. And
Hmm.
we have to let go of fear. We have to let go of fear. And we're so programmed into fearing something so that we can stay at bay.
And it's trusting the unseen purpose. Let me just throw this in. I think this is part of fear is that, it's not fear in something. It's just letting go, and I think that's very important. Sometimes we kind of, do not have that faith, or are doubtful of faith. But once you truly embrace faith and let go, I think that's one important place where we trust the unseen purpose, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like you walk into a dark room and you hold back because you don't want to walk into something, run into something, hurt yourself, fall, trip.
Yeah.
Uh, but if you light up a match, then you can see and walk your way through. And so it's all about, connecting with your inner light. It's all about connecting with consciousness. It's all about being aware, being conscious, being present. And when you're present, when you're aware, when you're conscious, call it light, call it energy, whatever, then you're aligned with fearlessness, with the clarity, with
Fearless. I,
understanding.
I like I like that concept, with fearlessness, and it's not fearlessness that it's you're gonna be unscathed, or that you're not going to be hurt, because we see what happened to Jesus, and it certainly is not just a peachy and roses. It is a life of struggle, but I think that through that struggle, and even in our failures, because that's another fear that we have, and that we mistrust, is that failures, if we really understand them, they align us and make us who we are. So I think you were saying that you went into this path, but I think that path kind of showed you, the extreme into what you did not want to become, and kind of, pushed you into the other side. So, it's always trusting the process. And I think that that's something that you always, that you also mention a lot in your book and in your work.
Yes, it's when you are coherent, when you align yourself with trust, and you trust, you understand that the quantum field, the universal consciousness, the source is in your favor. I mean, if you
Hmm.
have fun from that energy and you are part of that energy, because all you are is energy, and you choose to keep aligned with that vibration or that frequency, or rise to that vibration and frequency on a daily basis, then you start trusting, because you know what, you're in alignment, you're coherent. And even if you have this momentum of unalignedness, of ignorance or irresponsibility, because we're creating all the time,
Yeah.
constantly, whether you know it or not, whether you're conscious of it or unconscious of it. But when you become conscious, you sort of like put the brake on. And even though you got this
Hmm.
momentum coming and it'll come and push you, you keep trusting. You keep trusting that if it's happening and it's not aligned with what you would like for it to be happening, trust that it's all helping you rise higher and
And that
higher.
realigns you, right? That trusting, because sometimes you're rigid into your thoughts and into your ways, and that precisely is, dissolving that rigidity and those, schemes that you had, but embracing higher ones, that are coming from it. And you're saying, and I like this part, that the divine within. That's the name of this podcast. That's why I put it, because there is that source within you, and like you said, that goes beyond dogma. It goes beyond, like, you put God in one book, in one word, and it kind of just takes that, like Bruce Lee would say, it takes that form. And I think, like we've learned here, is that God is formless. It becomes, and we understand him the way that we want to understand him. So I think, and I like this, of what you're saying, that through your experience and of what you lived, it's always understanding that even the hardships, and I mean, the hardships, I think, are the most, the rewarding and fulfilling, once you see in retrospect, which is what you're saying, that once you see, those different moments in your life, and when you put them together, and you get to this point, they all meant something. There wasn't all, they had a purpose, which I think is very important.
Yes, like a friend of mine put it, you never get it wrong and you never get it done.
I
If we
like
are
that.
eternal, like our source, created in the image and likeness, then it's all a beautiful, amazing, deep, profound process of expansion. I believe that we, just like I learned in these teachings, we can solar systems. Just like Christ came and then sold this entire planet and transformed. Everybody's heard of him, and billions have changed by his own presence. And of course, the limited will never understand the unlimited, because it's operating from the limited. So yes, we're going to put him on a pedestal or on a cross, or we're going to go and do whatever ritual. But goes beyond that. It goes beyond, a locked matrix. And I think that God's so merciful, then we're allowed our process of unfoldment, of expansion. And if you are here walking this path, reading this book, this is beautiful because that's where you are meant to be, and it's perfect. And in the process, you're opening and expanding and understanding and seeing clearly. What holds you back is doubt, regret,
Hmm.
anxiety,
Yeah.
all these lower vibrating frequencies will hold you back. But if it's everything is frequency, everything is vibration, and we've heard of that many times. But so you think, okay, well, if I'm energy, you know, I mean, this physical matter is energy, just denser, but my thoughts are energy, my feelings
Hmm.
are energy, my words are energy. Okay, so there's higher energy, meaning lighter thoughts, lighter energy, and denser energy, or heavier. And so I start picking and choosing, what am I entertaining in my head? What am I listening to in my through my ears? What am I holding to in my heart? And I start repolarizing and realigning, and I do it constantly. When you go to the gym and you want to work out and you want to build your muscles, well, you start realizing that you can't go party and then work out the next day because it will soon catch up. Or you can't eat pizza all the time because it will
Or you
soon catch.
can't you really carry that much weight right off the bat because you need to strengthen yourself,
You
and but
need to build up.
progressively you build up. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's fascinating.
And I like this because I think one important aspect that we have to take into consideration, and for part of growth, and to gain wisdom, because we can be smart, and a lot of people are smart, but it takes worship, to really understand, to take back and to really worship and see God, not in the traditional way like you're saying, but everywhere, expressed everywhere, and that's where you start, of losing, not losing, but it's putting the existence before you, and finding your place and understanding your place within existence. Once you start, worshiping, and once you start going into this part of your spiritual growth, and then you start getting wisdom. I think that the experiences, once you go through them, because like we said, it's not going to be always good experiences. You're going to go through losses like you went, but what happens once you go through that? What happens once you understand that process, and you come transformed on the other side, which is the most important.
Well, let me put it this way. The Buddha said, "We are what we thought, having become. We are what we think, having become what we thought." Um, and I've gone through this process of going back to outsourcing. I understand the worship, and that's part of a process. That's part of developing compassion, developing understanding, developing forgiveness, developing all these qualities. But what
Hmm.
happens when you've developed these qualities? Not that we're perfect. Anybody that seeks perfection is only stalling themselves because they're afraid of losing and letting go. But um, I think that we should look inside. We have been going for eons looking outside, and looking outside has this empowered us, and it empowers a concept of God, and you got to worship him, and he's out there somewhere. But really, we have to go in this transition or transcendence of looking outside and outsourcing our power. uh, Faith develops power. Faith is, substance of the things hoped for and the evidence of that not yet seen. But why put it outside on something? Something is always going to be limited. And we have to discover that source is inside. We have to take our attention inside. We have to worship God within. How do
Yeah,
you worship
yeah.
God within? We worship God within by taking care of your body, taking care of your health, by loving you, by procuring your health, procuring your space, and take those sandals off your feet because where you're standing is sacred ground. Well, it's not because it was out there at Mount Sinai; it's because it's here and now. It's not tomorrow. Nobody. has tomorrow guaranteed, and yesterday is gone.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
be present, becoming conscious, and being present.
I like this that you're saying because I mean we've talked about experience and how that transformed you and gave you all this insight and all this experience, if we want to say it again, and brought all this wisdom to you where you can understand and be grateful for the different instances of your life. But I think this is important to for the daily day, for the everyday uh, a living. I always said that it's really impractical to think of, somebody that's enlightened just in the mountains or in nature or in the temples. We have to live it in the day by day, every day, and this is very important, especially for our audience. And how can you make that space, especially someone like you? How can you how you do you commune? How do you worship? How do you pray? How do you meditate in what we can call living in divine flow? When, like we're saying, you have a divine within. So this final segment, living in the divine flow, is it means that spiritual insight is nothing if we don't live in it. In this final segment, we'll bring the conversation into daily practice: meditation, self-observation, visualization, presence, and the art of staying aligned with the divine within. This is about moving from spiritual ideas to action, choosing flow over fear, awareness over reaction, and harmony over resistance. So how can we apply this in a daily living, these teachings, and how can you, or what do you suggest we do as habit? Because a lot of what you've been saying is habit forming. It's not just learning about something, but it's really practicing it and making it a habit.
Sustaining it. And I think that in the daily affair, in going out and coming back from your own home, from your own space, we got to learn that we're on constant transformation. I mean, I'm not enlightened until I'm gone and no longer here. But what I can uh, testify to is the law of mirrors. You go out there and you learn that everything is a mirror to you. Everything. And if this guy's doing
Hmm.
something that's checking you and not, generating this harmony within you, you check yourself and see, why am I reacting to this? And then if this person is extraordinary, well, instead of, wow, Jeff Bezos, my God, no. I mean, you have that potential and you have this piece of the puzzle that only you can bring into the entire puzzle. And perhaps right now,
Hmm.
there's pieces of the puzzle where your piece goes that are not in place. So you keep on working on your own self. You keep on allowing things to unfold. And the best way to do it on a daily basis is just your breath. Just connect with your breath.
Hmm.
This is what I teach when I teach meditation is, oh, hey, can you show me how to meditate? I've tried, but I can't, never been able to put my mind in blank. And well, it's not about putting your mind in blank. It's
Hmm.
more
Yeah.
about connecting with this space you're in and inhabit it. And the mind will want to go race forward or want to go slow backward, but you gotta just reconnect with this space you're in, this moment, this sacred ground you're in. And
Okay.
the best easier way to do it is by connecting with your conscious breathing, by inhaling. I mean, there's all kinds of methods. I understand that, but what it works for me is deep breaths. Inhale, exhale.
And everybody
Inhale.
tells you this, Eamon, and not only, I mean, from all the different traditions, I think breath, and it's where you connect, where you're bringing the world in and you're taking the world out. So, yes, that's why it's so important. Definitely.
Yeah. In this octave, we take the first breath and then we start crying, or they slap you on your booty and then you start crying when you're a baby. But, what about if we would take every breath we take in like our first breath? Because breath has frequency, it has chemistry, it has universal energy. And if we become aware that when we're breathing, we're not just inhaling air, we're just filling ourselves and repolarizing because we're there, we're conscious, we're present. It's going to do amazing things for you. I mean, it will help realign, repolarize, heal, and even transcend mind blocks, emotional ¿cómo se llama? Telarañas,
Yeah,
emotional.
the cobwebs.
And it's all in the breath. It's all in the breath.
Awesome, awesome. So breathing. What else can I mean? Think it. What happens to me when I'm meditating and when I'm breathing is, and like you're saying, you become conscious of your surroundings, of the space within you. You kind of project your consciousness at at that. You know, you take it in, right?
Mhm. Ritual has its place, but we've displaced its place.
Okay.
And I'm going to use an example: Christmas. Christmas, we gather together. It's the jolly season. Family comes together from faraway places, and it all becomes about the presents. But what if we would realize that the present is really the gift of now? The present. When you get a present, you don't look at it and just leave it there. You unfold it and you pull it out of the box. And if it's a blouse or a shirt or shoes, you put them on. So the present is the gift.
Yeah.
And when you meditate, it helps you come back into the gift. And the gift has dimensions, it has depths. So you can come back deep or you can come back externally, superficially, but it allows you to really value your surroundings. When you're in a meditation mode, you don't have to sit in lotus position. You can just be aware, breathing, conscious, eyes open. And you'll start noticing things that you like at home that you hadn't really noticed, or perhaps your wife looks prettier than you really
Mm-hmm.
thought, or even you look more handsome in the mirror than you thought. So the present is the gift. When we're in the mind, in the future, in the past, in the meeting, and the whatever, we are losing our sight of the present, being
Okay.
present. So to me, meditation strengthens your bond with gratitude, strengthens your bond with awareness, strengthens your clarity of mind and purpose. So meditation is wonderful if you apply it properly. It's not about blanking the mind. It's not about, all the names they give to the postures and whatever. It's about really unwrapping the gift for which you came together on Christmas and really wearing it. And it's high time for people to wear their Christhood, Buddhahood, Godhood, whatever you want to call it. But it's time to wear our best version of ourselves.
Our divine fragment and become this. I like what you said about being the piece of the puzzle, that we have to become that piece, and that sometimes it's hard. And we've been talking about this, that you fear and you have to trust, and faith comes in here. But that you're transforming and you're evolving into that piece, even if that piece of, or that section of the puzzle isn't there yet. It eventually will be there, because we're all part of I love this concept of the supreme, that we're all part of this God the supreme. We're all working towards the evolution and the perfection of the universe. So we all have a part in this puzzle that you're saying. So I really like this. And how
You,
can people find that space, or that place in the puzzle?
well, in the book, I name it cooperative component.
Okay.
Cooperative component. So, cooperative component can be people, can be synchronicities, can be opportunities, can be changes. There's cooperative components in place for your highest or most premium version to unfold, but you have to be a cooperative component with them.
Yeah.
In other words, it's like it's a circle. It's
Hmm.
you want to see that puzzle come together, and you're eager to place your part, your piece, your piece.
Hmm.
But oh man, there's a couple other pieces there. that are not in place. So where is my place? Where do I
Yeah.
place this? Well, then you come to understand that that piece you're holding might look pretty, and you might feel like it's time, but it's not, because you don't know where to put it, because its place is not there yet. So you
Yes.
go back and you keep growing and you keep evolving. It's I look at it as spirals. We're energy spirals, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
energy spiral goes out, right? And it's circle and it comes back, but it doesn't come back at the same level. It comes back in a higher level, unless you're in a downward spiral, but it'll
That's
come
why it's
back.
a spiral. It's in the same radius, but it moves forward, upward or downward.
Yeah. And now when it goes out, and here comes the law of consequence. When it goes out, light vibration will bring back that which it picked up on its way out. So
Hmm.
if you're aligned and you're sending love and you're good and you're helpful and you're friendly and you're, relaxed, well, in that very life experience of yours, you're going to start reaping better experiences.
Hmm.
But you got to understand that if some shit comes back, and I'm sorry for my language,
Please
to
do
you
so.
and it smears on your face, then it means that it's a process and it was
Yeah.
something that you did inadvertently or unconsciously or egotistically. But you keep on trusting. We lose our faith, we lose our trust. Not talking about religion. We lose uh confidence in the process. We have to trust. We have to trust. Every day is about trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. How many successful people have reached success way past their 50s,
Yeah.
you know?
No, and
And
that
they've
didn't
worked
throw the
toward it.
towel
Yeah,
at the first a failure. They trusted the process and they kept on going forward. Of course.
exactly. And they cave in and they go back into their old momentums and their old selves, and they uh let go. And in my understanding, doesn't mean that it's the law, but in my understanding, you will come back to that place, whether it's in this lifetime or the next, and you will pick up the stitch where you left it and keep on stitching your tapestry,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
great creation. And you are your great creation.
That puzzle piece, you're still going to be creating that puzzle piece. And I like what you said, that that sometimes you have the piece, and it's nice and pretty and you want to put it, but the place is not there yet. So you have to really understand that sometimes uh and then sometimes it means that you're maturing and you're evolving, and you're not there yet. And sometimes the moment is not ripe yet. So it's very important to kind of understand this, understand the times of the universe and be in time with the universe, I think.
And you can ask, hey, so what happens with that when that happens? What do I do? Help others get there. Help others get there. Maybe you got money and you need somebody to place their piece there, but they're struggling. Share. It's about sharing. It's about, you came here butt naked and you're getting out of here butt naked, but perhaps you can't fulfill your purpose yet because your purpose is helping others complete their piece, and then you'll start seeing the whole puzzle. That's why we're one. That's why we gotta stop, as light bearers, if I would use that at old school, but it as way showers, as
Hmm.
whatever. We have to work together, not because you're a Christian or you're a Muslim or you're this or you're that, or this is my sect and that's yours. You know, those are fragments, and there's nothing going to happen unless we stop fragmenting ourselves and we become whole. And before we see any real lasting transcendental change out there, we got to do it here. And not just me, everyone. We have to align ourselves with our highest version, or our highest version sounds even far fetched, with our
Hmm.
premiums. We got to align ourselves with all those qualities that are in us, and we have to make an effort. People ask me, well, how can I align myself with God? I don't know. How can I understand what God is or who is God? Or, well, if you were created in an image and likeness of something that does not rust, does not expire, does not stay here when all is said and done, then start aligning yourself with those qualities instead of attaching yourself to the Hermes bag or the Rolex or the car or the title or the business or the whatever. Start aligning yourself with the energy that does go beyond this
Yeah, the
realm.
mundane, the material
Yeah,
realm that we have. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Kindness goes far. You know, patience, understanding, tolerance, forgiveness, gratitude, joy. All these qualities, they vibrate nicely.
And
We gotta just
they're
remember.
eternal, and I think this is very important. And if this is something that our audience can take, is that strive for, like you said, not the bag, not the car, not the material, but the value that transcends this physical plane that we are going to take. And something that I believe. I mean, we have material experiences. We're part material, we're part spiritual, and we have this reality where we interact, but it's what we create here, the bonds, the helping somebody else, the relationships we build, the love we give, like you say, might sound cliche or trivial, but it's the love that we put out that really is going to be eternal, because we're going to be, I mean, this body is gonna go away, but our acts and that love that we gave and that we brought to this world is going to transcend and be with us throughout eternity, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That which is atemporal. I don't know how you say atemporal. Timeless.
Yeah, timeless, exactly. This is pretty interesting. And now, can you tell us a little bit more? I mean, you've been telling us a lot, actually, about your book and what the message within the book. But tell us a little bit more so that people can read it. They can check you out, and we can. I mean, we're gonna share all your links here. But tell us a little bit more about your book.
Well, this is my fourth book. Its title is That Deep Little Book because it's deep and it's very shallow, not shallow, but very light. It's written in a very digestible format, and it will cover experiences, personal experiences. I shared my life experience when my dad died, even younger. And it's not necessarily a book that will tell you how to do things. It's a book that shares with the reader how I did things. My previous
Hmm.
book called Medita Conmigo talked about the styles and the meditations that I used to teach, and very more in a intellectual or in a logic
Hmm.
way. This book is more like sharing what I am in the process of becoming or in the process of revealing based on implementing the teachings that I picked up. And like I said, we never get it right. We never get it done. I keep transforming myself today. And every time I become aware of what's happening out there, I realize, wow, what a beautiful message. I've discovered that the universe or the source or the conscious universal consciousness is telling you something through things. And this book uh, will reveal methods of how you can discover that, how you can discover this
Yeah.
language that goes. It's real subtle, and if you're not present, you will miss it. You will miss the track. You will miss the mark. You will miss the opportunities to expand. But when you start tuning in, and it has some nice exercises to help you tune in, it's got some beautiful affirmations or decrees.
Hmm. Hmm.
I used to do a lot of decrees. In fact, I believe I was a priest in one of those temples in Lemuria, probably, because I got into this science of the spoken word and invocations. Um, but I'm now a little outside of that. I still
Hmm.
practice it, but for the longest time, I would decree for hours daily for years. and it helps lift your vibration. The oscillation strength behind the words, especially if they're rhythmical and they're enlightening,
Definitely, definitely.
will generate this vibration that will strip you of denser energies, cleanse your aura, your force field, align, help you seal those rents within that force field that we have ripped open through drugs or alcohol or energy lashes like hatred and
Yeah.
whatever. So um, it won't tell you much of that work, but it does have some really nice stories and really nice herramientas, prácticas
The
herramientas,
tools, the tools.
good
Well,
tools.
that's really important for nowadays. It's not just the idea behind it, but how you can really apply it to your life. So I think it's a practical book. That's what I liked about it. Well, like you say, you can put it in practice. It's not just a theory. So yeah, I think the our audience can really benefit from it. And well, it's been a pleasure. I mean, we've talked a lot about how to put all this into practice of really trusting that the universe is always working on your favor. And I really want to thank you for being here. Any closing remarks before we go?
Well, I'm grateful for the invitation, Santiago, and I think that knowing that our families have grown along together and that your grandparent, your grandfather, and my father, and whatever energy in the family is funneling into this truly purposeful uh, encounter, relationship. It goes beyond credence. It goes beyond beliefs. It goes beyond programmings. It goes beyond hereditary stampings, and
Yeah.
it's really open to something wonderful and marvelous. And I commend you for your effort and for your work and for putting out all this information in your podcast. And I thank you and Nacho for the invitation. And I'm always ready and open to diving deeper.
Definitely, and this is just the beginning. And thanks for being here, and thanks for your kind words. I think there's a lot of things to explore, and a lot of things that we can bring and talk about. So, thanks once again for being here, and for everybody that watched this. I invite you to subscribe. Remember not only to share this, but to talk to people if you liked it, and tell them that we have very good conversations over here if they want to learn it. So. Thanks for being here. I'm Santiago Kneeland. This was The Divine Within. Take care and carpe diem. On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.